Hey, everybody, welcome back to the FloTrack Podcast, FloTrackPodcast at gmail.com. Write us an email. Gordon is getting impatient with the lack of emails. We're also on Spotify, Stitcher, and wherever else you listen to podcasts, flotrack.org/FloTrack Podcast. I'm Kevin. He's Gordon. How are you doing today, Mr. Mack?
Doing good. It is June 4th, a Thursday. And I know we're a track podcast, but Kevin, every time you're on with me, I gotta sometimes just dive deep into the NBA world because it's your Spurs. What are your thoughts on the NBA turning July 31st? I mean, any type of sport coming back is great for all of our insanity. But
Yeah.
are you excited for to see Spurs playing in Orlando?
No, because it was a frustrating season for the Spurs. So my own angst with my team aside, it is exciting to know that sports are back, but it's still so far away. This is end of July. I mean, we're what, 7 weeks from the beginning of the restart of the season, but it's still hopeful because that's like what we have right now, right? In terms of sports, like baseball is still what baseball is doing. Track and field obviously is going to wait until what, August. So
Like
it really will be
mid-August.
the NBA. Yeah. So the Spurs famously have a long running playoff streak. They made the cut in this situation, but it's not officially the playoffs. But I am pulling rank here and saying this counts. This counts as the playoffs. So I'd like to congratulate the Spurs for making playoffs now for 23 years in a row. I think we're at.
Yeah, it's not how it works, buddy. You gotta be top 8 in your conference, and then you make the
Okay.
playoffs. You like to do this. You like to just like ignore reality and be like, no, this is how I'm
Yes.
gonna.
Yes.
This is what I'm gonna believe. You do that with Hayward Field. You're like, I'm
Uh-huh.
just gonna pretend
Yep.
that new stadium doesn't exist. I'm gonna go think about the old stadium.
Yes. Okay. So how are you? And we'll get to track stuff in a second here, but how do you think this champion will ultimately be viewed? If your Sixers do the unthinkable and pull this off, will you treat it as a regular championship? Will it feel as good as a regular championship?
Yes, and I think everyone who criticizes the championship will be fans of the team that didn't win,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
everyone who doesn't criticize it will be fans of the team that did win. So
Mm-hmm.
that's how it's going to work. And then you have the whole like LeBron winning it will be used as a negative against him when they compare him. They'll say he only has 2.5 rings or 3.5 rings or whatever. So
Yeah.
people love this to make fake asterisks and be like, oh, some people believe that New Orleans made it to the Super Bowl even though they didn't. They
Yeah.
even though it's a pass interference, they did not go to the Super Bowl, but the whole state of Louisiana just pretended that the Super Bowl didn't happen. Whatever. People
Careful.
like
Careful
to
with that one in
people are
your
crazy with
house.
sports, man. We like to just kind of create realities in our head when it comes to sports, like, oh, that
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't count because that was an unfair advantage, or this doesn't count, or that did count, or that should have. I mean, I do that every single night before I go to bed. I imagine the Kawhi shot not going in, and that the Sixers
Yes.
end up winning the NBA championship last year. But you know, that's
Yeah.
that's the life of a sports fan, just like mental gymnastics of how to always justify why you were wronged or why you are better than you actually are. Right?
I
That's
will
what we
say
do.
this. Yeah. I will say this, though, but just with the NBA coming back, that's going to be the first of the major professional team sports in the United States that comes back, right? So this is significant in terms of other sports following suit, and then that would obviously have a trickle down effect to track, because if you're a fan of track and field, which I think you are because you're listening to this podcast, and you want to see some sort of season in even domestically in August or September, maybe some of those smaller meets, the NBA coming back and being able to pull off their season, even though the dynamics of the NBA are way different than track and field, I think it helps from a outside perspective to see sports going on and normalizing sports and showing the way of, okay, we could still do sports in a safe way it's going to help bring back other sports. Nobody wants to be first, but everybody's going to want to be second, third, fourth, and fifth. They're going to crowd the doorway now, I think.
Yeah, and yeah, it would be weird. We're like for sports federations to see another sport, participating and be like, oh,
Mhm.
well, eventually no one wants to be the team that's not the sport that's not
Right.
playing, right? Everyone
Yeah.
wants to kind of be going. I mean, that's what it was when the NBA started the domino by pulling out, right? No one wanted
Yep.
to be
Yep.
that one sport that kept playing. Now it's going to be no one wants to be the sport that holds, so especially
Yep.
when there's money on the line and all that good stuff. So, and if
Exactly.
the I know we're in the middle of a pandemic, but like, things have been looking good for the past like 7-8 weeks. It's been going down, which is a good thing. It's been slowing down. Uh, you never know what can happen, but we're not going crazy. It's not getting worse right now. It's only getting better. And I just hope that it continues to get better. We'll find out. I mean, even Lincoln admitted to me that, hey, maybe it is getting better. And if you get Lincoln on board to think it's getting better, that means it might actually be getting better.
Well, and we'll know a bunch more by the time the season actually starts. By the time this NBA season actually starts, that would be the end of July, and then it would be a couple more weeks before, right, the first track meet. But that's overseas, so a little bit different. So there's still time to get more information about what's going on, which would help even more if we're looking at having a 2020 season. Now, who competes and all that other stuff, as we've talked about ad nauseum on this show, we don't know. That's all TBD, and you can look at it from both perspectives. But there is going to be a competition this Sunday, Gordon. The Ultimate Garden Clash. They've made a brand out of this. They did it with the men in the
You,
pole vault. They did it with the women in the pole vault, and now we're doing a triathlon in the garden.
this is peak bad. This is just not good. I hate this idea. You told me about this right
Why
before we
not?
started recording, and I just think no one's gonna watch it. No one's gonna watch it.
Oh, so you
The
got
viewership
the.
is.
I'm gonna watch.
Yeah, you're
I'm gonna
not gonna
watch
watch
it.
this. Are you gonna watch this? Oh my
I'm
god.
gonna watch this
Who's
for
in it?
sure. I mean, look. Well, they got good names for the decathlon. They got Kevin Mayer, the world record holder. They got the reigning world champ, Nicholas Cal of Germany, and they got Marcelo Ebo, who is a silver medalist. So, but this is the equivalent of getting the top like three biggest names in the marathon or the top three biggest sprinters to run. The difference is it's a decathlon. So what they're going to do is, or a triathlon, they're going to see how many times they can vault over 4 meters in 10 minutes. Then they're going to do the shot put, and then they're going to do that as many times over 12 meters as possible. And then this is why I'm watching. This last part is why I'm watching. Then they conclude with a shuttle run in which two cones, I'm reading out from the World Athletics website, are placed 20 meters apart, with the athletes collecting points for each completed back and forth shuttle over the course of 5 minutes. 5 minutes. When you did the shuttle run in gym class, it was like a 10-second thing, 5-second thing. These guys are going to be going back and forth for 10 minutes. The sides of their shoes are going to be
For five
completely
minutes, you
worn
said.
out. 5 minutes,
It's
20
only 5
meters,
minutes of running, dude. Have you ever ran 5 minutes in your life? You really
yeah,
think
a
they're not going
couple.
to be sprinting? They're going to sprint the first 30 seconds, and then they're going to start just jogging, and that's what you're going to watch. It's just going to
Do
be
you
four and
do
a
you have to
half minutes
touch
of
the
jogging.
do you have to touch the line and then go to the other
It's going
side
to
or
be
not?
like it's going to look like a soccer team at the end of practice doing sprints, and it's like, okay, all right, we go, touch, okay, keep going. That's all it's going to be. It's
Look,
not going to be dramatic. I mean,
I think I think it will be
have you
because I want
seen
there to be a winner.
decathlon 1500s, man? They're not fun to watch. Like
Ashton
they're
Eaton, Ashton Eaton is pretty good. I was there in the stadium when he broke the world record. That one was fun to watch. Look, you can poo-poo it all you
okay.
want. You're
You
sounding you're
you're
sounding like
comparing
Lincoln
a
here a
shuttle
little bit.
relay to a world record. That's a
We're
little.
gonna see. We might see a triathlon garden clash world record. You don't know what history is in store for this. I didn't know I was co-hosting this podcast with Lincoln. This is crazy. I looks like Gordon. I mean, he's got the signage behind him. Um, look, I like how everything's been turned into an endurance event. As an endurance fan, I like that pole vault is now an endurance event, shot put, and even sprinting, which doesn't make a sense at all. It's a complete contradiction to say an endurance sprinting event. But there we have it. I'm
Well, we
tuning
do
in.
have we do have they're actually going. I mean, we talked about this on a previous pod maybe last week, but the Ingebrigtsens versus Chariot.
Yeah,
Chariot.
yeah.
Yeah, that's happened. So that's what next week.
That's at the Impossible Games,
Impossible
which is
Games.
June 11th. June 11th. So that's next
Okay,
Thursday. Yeah. If you
seven
listen to
seven
mine and
days.
Link, yeah, if you listen to mine and Lincoln's last pod, which you probably didn't, we're gonna do wall to wall Impossible Games coverage next week. There's gonna be a pre-show, a a halftime show, and a post show because we are that I will agree is a step up from what we got going here with this Ultimate Garden Clash. But it's good to see. I want to. Are they're gonna probably gonna be? It says from their training bases, so it's a little different. I like the backyard element before, but it's probably difficult to have a vault, shot put, and shuttle run all set up in one backyard.
Yeah, I just think that the World Athletics uh, thinks something is more popular than it actually is, and they just like, oh, we got to keep it going, and it's like, no, no, I don't know. There's just like
Man, they got
the gimmick. The gimmick worked in the first time around, and I feel like the gimmick gets less and less, entertaining.
they got headlines. Both those pole vault competitions, men's and women's, got headlines because there's not much going on. So I don't
Yeah,
blame
but
them. I'm
yeah.
watching. What if in the background? So Marcel Weibo's like doing this at a training ground. What if in the background they just go to like a wide shot and Shawnee Miller drops like a 48.5 400, but
Okay,
like,
then I'll tune in.
but everyone's just like paying attention to what's going on in the foreground, but she's just like ripping a quarter, and you're like, wait a minute, did she just? Is she doing a virtual meet right now? Like, what's going on with her? Okay, so that's
Before
on
we
Sunday.
before we talk about our main topic, which we haven't even
Yeah,
talked about, what we're like 10 minutes into this pod, we haven't even talking about what we're actually going to talk about. There was a few little news nuggets that also happened. Alexa
there was.
Ephraimson, time trial, the 427 1600.
Okay,
That's pretty good. She was paced by some male teammates, and then
okay,
also there's reports that there's a good chance the Yukon track team might be the next team to get cut because Yukon is apparently going to be cutting 8 of their 24 sports, and let's just be honest, their track is going to be one of them. I mean, there's 3 different track teams across indoor, outdoor, or 6 we count the women. They're going to take some of those sports out, I think. So UConn will be the
wait,
most likely be the
are you
next.
reporting this? Who's
There's a
reporting this? Are
there,
you reporting?
there's a report. There's a report. I think in Yahoo about
Okay,
how UConn is on the verge of no Sports Illustrated that they're on the verge of making massive sports cuts soon.
okay, but we don't know if it's track.
We
There's
don't
nothing
know.
that said it's
We
track.
don't know if
Okay,
it's track, but there's a strong chance. I'm guessing. I mean, 8 of 24. I mean, do you think they're gonna keep of the? Do you think of they're gonna go down to 16 teams? Do you think they're gonna have 6 track teams and 10 non-track teams? I don't think so because
okay.
I think they're
You're
gonna
saying
cut
between, yeah, okay. You're saying between the 3 seasons, there's going to be a cut.
of
Okay,
bonus X's. Yeah,
but we don't know. But we don't know
we don't
yet,
know, but
right? Okay,
be on the lookout.
okay.
That's all I'm saying.
Our main topic for today, we're going to simulate the 2020 Men's Outdoor Championship. This is part one of a 2-part pod. On Friday's show, the women will be the subject, but today we're looking at the men. Now, I famously simulated the 2020 Indoor Championships in an article that Gordon read, and I don't know who else, but I did it. I did it. And now, Gordon, what's crazy? We've lived to see this simulation for the outdoor championship. The whole outdoor season passed by, right? Would this have been? Oh wait, next week. One of these weeks would have been the outdoor championship. So, where do you want to start?
Well, you did some research, right?
Did a lot of research.
So
And I
we're gonna let you
simulated
be
indoors.
yeah, and you simulate it indoors. So you have the algorithms in your head.
Yep,
We'll,
yep,
we'll
yep,
let you be the meet director. We'll let you be the meet director, and you
yep.
will give us the race recap of some of the notable races, and I'll give you my thoughts on it, and I'll say like, hey, did you know about this person though, who could have come up
Yeah,
hot
yeah.
and take the victory? So you pick an event. How about we start the 100 men's 100?
Yeah. Let's do that. So keep in mind, though, this is coming off a very compelling indoor championship where LSU and NAU tied for the team title. Okay, keep that in mind because that's important to know. That's actually what happened. But yeah, let's start at the 100. The 100 completely wide open, right? This was a year in transition. Now, Raymond Ekvewo is the indoor 60 simulated champion. So he comes in a bit of a favorite, you could say. But FSU, they had guys that were out indoors that are coming back outdoors too. So this one was close,
You,
and this one was just sort of like indoors where no one really separated themselves early on. But I have Ekvewo holding on, doing the indoor outdoor simulated double is what I had.
who do you have as runner up? Did you
Kashawn
go that
James.
deep?
Yeah, Kashawn
Deshaun
James.
James. So where does Matthew Bowling finish?
Matthew Boeing made the final. It was seventh.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about Anthony Schwartz? Does he make the final? Auburn
Anthony,
star.
yes. As a matter of fact, he did. He was sixth.
Okay.
So
I think
yeah, some big
I
names
think
in there, obviously.
I think Houston finds a way to have another top guy in that final, maybe finishing top four. I think Travis Collins, who had kind of a
Mm-hmm.
breakout 60 performance, kind of under the radar, not superstar up front, but I think Carl Lewis and Leroy Burrell are always going to find a way to get some sprinter in there. So I think Travis Collins finishes in the top four.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But you're
Do you want to go
going
to the
with
200?
Florida for the
Yeah,
individual win. All right, I'll
yeah,
give you that.
yeah. Ekvewo, man, he just the momentum that he got at that. I mean, we all saw it. That indoor win in Albuquerque, that really laid down a marker of what this guy's capable of. 200 now, 200 had some bigger names, you could say, right? Because Micaiah Harris had been around, he'd been on the scene. Terrence Laird, of course, Bowling is in there as well. Now, if you remember, Gordon, you remember the 200 result. I mean, Laird got the win.
Oh,
Um,
why don't you
I,
refresh me what happened?
well, Laird got the win, right, ahead of Harris. Bowling was fifth in that. He was in that second section. You know, they do that 2 heat final, which I'm not a
Yeah.
fan of. You don't really know what to take from it because of all the positioning factors. But Micaiah Harris comes back and on his home track gets the win here for UT ahead of Laird. Again, Bowling makes another final, so a solid freshman campaign for him. He makes 2 finals, but not in the top 5 here. But plenty of opportunities in the future for him. But this was all about Micaiah Harris at home. It's actually one of the most exciting races of the simulated meet because the fans really got into it.
I like it. Micaiah Harris getting the win at home.
Yeah, you can't argue with that, can you?
Can't argue. I mean,
No.
I want to know how if Trevor Stewart decides to drop down in distance to do the 200. I know he's maybe a
Mm,
400 guy, but Kai Harris, I respect it. LSU, does LSU get points out of this? I mean, they got Terrence Laird. How many
Laird, yeah.
LSU Tigers make the final?
The two actually. Thank you for asking.
Two.
That was on my sheet,
Okay,
right under. Yeah. It was right there underneath the.
not three,
No, just two.
because
400. You brought up
okay.
Trevor Stewart. You brought up Trevor
So
Stewart.
who made
We
the
forgot
final for LSU? Because you have Terrence Laird, Akani Hillsop, and Dylan Pebbles.
Peebles. Peebles made it. Peebles made it.
Peebles.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yep. Yep. So 400. I can't believe you're asking these questions. This is it's obvious. It's right in front of you. 400. Okay. The 400 was interesting because you brought up Stewart. It didn't have a great indoor season, but comes back like a bat out of hell. So he's in the mix. You have Jonathan Jones, another Texas Longhorn running at home there. You have Patterson. You have Bryce Deadman. You have Randolph Ross, Trevor Stewart's teammate, the freshman there. And you also have someone who you'd like to talk about constantly, Quincy Hall. Now, I didn't have him in this, right? I didn't have him in this. I had him. Oh wait, did he have another year of eligibility? No, he
No,
just
he
had
does,
indoors,
but he's
right?
the four. He ran the 400 hurdles.
I know, but I'm mentioning him because you're going to mention him as. But what about Quincy Hall? And I'm just saying he ran the 400 hurdles, so he's not
Okay.
included in this section. And for those of you who don't remember the simulated indoor 400, do you remember that? Do you remember how that went down?
No, what happened in the indoor season?
Okay, so Jones gets the win. Jonathan Jones gets the win. He's got a lot of experience, but Randolph Ross is really the revelation of that because that meet and that season in general because he gets second. He gets second there. So um, Jones is able to prevail again, but it's a different North Carolina
Ooh.
A&T guy getting a runner-up. It's Stewart for the second year in a row. Remember last year behind Kamara Montgomery, so it goes Jones and then Trevor Stewart is back. And Stewart runs fast enough to where you think, oh man, he could maybe make the Olympic team, the simulated Olympic team.
I like it. So 2 Longhorns winning
Mm-hmm.
on their home. I see. I guess. Okay. So 20 points for Texas already out of the gate.
Yes.
Let's move on.
Yeah.
Let's move over to the 800.
Okay, 800. So this is where things really get interesting because you get some more established names in the mid distance and distance. And you also, when you get into the distance, we had cross country. We didn't have to simulate cross country. We know what happened in cross country. So we're able to extrapolate some better simulated results. But listen, 800 was all about all eyes were on Devin Dixon. He finally broke through indoors, got that simulated indoor title, even though he didn't go in as a number one seed, but he does it, Gordon. He does it. So then the question is, can he do it now outdoors? And you know what the answer is? You know what the answer is?
What's the answer?
Yes. It's yes. It's
Ooh.
a definitive yes, right? He's able to get this win over a experienced group. You know, you had people like Isaiah Jewett, Festus Legat, Carlton Orange, Michael Rhodes, Rashawn Rooms, assuming eligibility and all that other good stuff. But Dixon does it. He figures it out. And again, he runs fast enough to where you're talking about him potentially being a contender for that third and final Olympic spot. Now, the men's 800 U.S. Olympic team, very hard to make, but Dixon's a big talent. So he gets the win here.
So I'm not sure if you were watching the same race I was watching.
The simulated race?
Yeah, I think you were I think you had the wrong update. I think you were looking at the 1.0 version and not the 2.0 version
Okay, what do
because
you have?
there's this kid out of Wake Forest who did not have indoor eligibility, but he was just a 5th-year senior for outdoor. Robert Heppenstall,
Oh my gosh, is this
146
the guy
guy.
who's has he made every single final of every single race? This is the guy, right? We've
I
talked
think
about him
so.
before.
And he he
He's never.
he beat
Yep.
Devin Dixon indoors last
Mm-hmm.
year. He
Yep.
got
Yep.
third
Yep. Yep.
indoors. Dixon got
Yep.
fourth. So he said he would have been the top returner indoors during the simulated season, but he didn't have the eligibility. So
Okay.
and he didn't run outdoors last year because he redshirted. So I think Robin
Okay.
Heppenstall does this wild kick, and Devin Dixon takes it out in 49, and he's on pace to run 144 high. But Heppenstall just is he goes from like he's like in 7th place at 300 meters to go, and then he's in
Mm-hmm.
4th place with 200 meters to go. And then you could just see kind of Dixon kind of tightening up, and Heppenstall is like just out in lane 4, and Heppenstall gets it
Oh
at the
wow.
line. And you just see
Wow.
Dixon being like, damn it, I thought Bryce Hoppel was gone, and now there's another guy coming in here whose last name starts with the letter H. And I think Robin
Yeah.
Heppenstall actually wins the 2.0 simulated 800.
Okay. Okay. There's no such thing as a 2.0. There's only one simulation, and it's my simulation. But that's an interesting fact. To be honest, didn't know he had outdoor left, but I believe he's always been All American. Is he just like he's a perpetual All American, right?
Yeah,
The
always
guy's
going to be
never
in
not.
top
I
8.
mean, yeah. Yeah. For sure. Okay. Let's go to the 1500. Now, the 1500,
Ooh.
always an intriguing race, especially the year before. Who can forget Justine Kiprotich getting outleaned by Yared Naguse in just a thrilling finish there. And things got even more interesting indoors, of course, because Oliver Hoare, Jordy Beamish, everybody remembers where they were for that epic battle. Hoare prevailed. Obviously, Naguse, though, wasn't even in that race. He was running he's focused more on the distance medley relay where he anchored Notre Dame to another win. So we come back with those. I guess we can call them the big three, Gordon. Do you want to call them the big three?
Sure. I
Let's call
like
them the
that.
big
Yeah,
three.
big 3.
Yeah. But listen, you listening, Gordon?
Okay, I'm listening. Tell me how this
Okay.
3 unfolds. These big 3.
But listen, it's
I'm
ripe for
listening.
upsets. it's ripe for upsets, right?
Ooh.
Like Josh Kerr is doing Josh Kerr things, and then Oliver Hoare steps on the scene. Oliver Hoare is doing Oliver Hoare things, and then Jordy Beamish steps on the scene, and then Yared Nuguse, and et cetera, et cetera. So what if I told you the winner didn't come out of those three, Gordon? What if I told you that it was in fact Waleed Suleiman of Ole Miss? Come on down. You are the
Ooh.
2020 simulated 1500-meter national champion.
Is it a fast race or is it a slow race? It's got to
No,
be a
because
slow
it's
race,
never a
right?
yeah, it's never a fast race when men run a 1500 in a championship unless Timothy Chariot is there. It's tactical as per usual, but it's a fair race. It's a fair race, and all the big names are there. Hoare stumbles a bit with 200 to go, gets kind of boxed in a tad, but Suleiman just had too much over the last 50 meters, and he is
Was
the
Jordy
NCAA
Beamish in this
champion.
race, or was Jordy Beamish in this race, or was he running from the park
Ah,
there?
very, very interesting question. He actually switched to the steeple, Gordon. No, he was there. He was there.
He was
He
in there.
decided after last year, stick to the 1500, get sharp, try to make the Olympic team, right? And look, earlier in the year, I mean, all eyes were on Beamish after he broke the collegiate record at Brian Clay. I mean, did you remember that race? Were you out in Azusa for the Brian Clay this past year or no?
Oh, he broke the record in the simulated Brian Clay meet.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I thought you were there. You weren't traveling that weekend? You went to the beach. Okay, I don't
I
remember
went
where
to
you
the
were.
beach. I went to the beach.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
so
So
this is that part of the storyline is Jordy Beamish came in as the new collegiate record holder in the
yeah,
simulated
so
outdoor
let
championship.
me yeah, okay, so I should have set the table a little bit better. So you have Naguse coming in as a reigning champion and just the DMR kingpin. You have Oliver Hoare, previous national champion, and also he's around, right? And he's the most versatile runner in the NCAA. We saw what he did in cross country. You see what he does in 1500. He is the most versatile runner in the NCAA. And then you have the collegiate record holder in Jordy Beamish after he ran so fast in Azusa. And then Suleiman just goes around the big three entirely and gets the win.
I'm surprised you picked
Yeah. So,
Suleiman to do that and not Carlos Villarreal.
okay, so I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you brought up Carlos Villarreal because his kick was obviously on point and phenomenal, but it got tripped with 50 to go in this
Ooh,
simulated
you got
race. Yeah,
tripped.
yeah.
You fell.
Yeah, yeah. It looked like he was going to have a chance, like a run at it on the outside. You know what this race reminded me of, Gordon? This race reminded me of the 2019 steeple for the men at the NCAA meet,
Oh,
where there's
okay.
people falling. Just a whole story was written in the last 200 meters with what went on there. But yes, Villarreal made the final this year. Last year he didn't make it. Was obviously disappointed. So everybody was there, and some are calling it the race of the simulated meet.
All right, men's steeple.
So men's steeple, got to be honest, this one was tough. This one was tough to simulate. Now, Ryan Smeaton comes back as the top returner, right? Ryan Smeaton, Oklahoma State,
Yeah.
Canadian. You got Keegan
Then you have
Chamati in there from Middle Tennessee State. And then you actually have all of BYU, like every
like
single
the entire
person from BYU. Yeah. They
the entire
qualified 10
enrollment,
people.
right?
They qualified 10 people to the final. It was crazy. Ed Eyestone
It
was
was two
allowed to
guys
shoot.
and 10 people.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Just
Ed
imagine that.
Eyestone was allowed to shoot the gun just because it looked too much like a practice. And you know who one of the 10 people was on there?
Casey Klinger.
Isaac Wood. No, Isaac Wood.
Oh,
Isaac
Isaac.
Wood actually made the final. It was an incredible turn of events. So yeah, BYU had everybody else. Last year they had 4 in the final. This year they just went and they got 10, even though that was actually impossible. But I had Chamati ultimately getting the win over Smeaton here.
How did Stephen Jones do, the Mississippi State runner who's run 8:42 last year, who is now announcing he's transferring to Colorado for his 5th year? How well did
Mm.
the future Colorado product do, Stephen Jones?
Well, no, he actually transferred in the simulated thing. He transferred to BYU and was one of the 10 guys who
Oh,
ran in the final for BYU. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
okay,
didn't
that
mention
makes
that
more sense.
before.
No, you didn't
Okay.
mention that.
All right. Do you want to do the 5,000 now? You want the 5,000?
Did Texas get any points from John Rice?
No, he did not transfer to BYU. He did not transfer to
No,
BYU. So that was it.
but for Texas, did he score for Texas and get any
Well, no,
points?
top 8. look, top 8 score, Gordon. And if one person was from
Okay.
Middle Tennessee State, one person was from Oklahoma State, and then 10 people were from BYU,
Okay.
you can
Okay.
do the math there. I don't need
Okay.
to
I
figure
did the
that out
math.
for
Yeah.
you, do I?
Yeah. Thanks,
Okay,
man. Move on.
5,000.
5K.
Actually, you know what?
Yeah.
How about I do the 10,000 first, because
Okay.
chronologically the 10,000 is first. And these two
Yes.
events are linked so closely together. So let me just take you back. Again, you need the context of indoors, right? And that thrilling duel. The duel where we called it the battle of the form charts, because LSU and NAU never actually ran against each other, but they ran other people to score points, right? That's what we call it. And in the 5,000 in that race, those NAU guys pushed the pace so hard, and they got rid of everybody except and Kurgat. You thought, hey, is this Tyler Day's moment? Is he going to get that first individual title? But he ended up getting third behind Kurgat and Klecker. And then in that 3,000, Klecker got the win. So we go into outdoors, and Tyler Day doesn't have a title yet. He does not have that title, despite being in the mix all of them. And this says nothing of all the other NAU guys that are good. And he does it in the 10,000, where he gets his title. The perfect
Does he change
ending
his name to?
to his.
So Tyler Day, does he
Does he change
officially
his
get
name
his name changed
to
to
what?
Title Day? To this title because he got a title.
Yes.
I have an
I thought
interesting
you said
story about
like
Tyler Day.
Tyler
You
10K.
want to hear it?
Okay, go ahead.
So
Sure.
when we were filming the NAU series, Tyler was talking about to Mike Smith, his coach, saying how he had a dream the night before, like that last night, where he was winning the. No, it was maybe it was no, it wasn't Tyler's dream. Maybe it was Mike's dream. It was either Mike's dream or Tyler's dream. But Tyler was winning
Mm-hmm.
the 10K in Austin, and he had like a big lead, and he just needed to run the final 100 meters. But then Tyler got distracted with a bouncy house and ran towards the bouncy house instead to go down a bouncy house slide. And Mike was freaking out because he says, "No, no, no, you need to finish the race." And Tyler was saying, "I need to go down the bouncy slide." And then he woke up. So we don't know if he won, but your simulation says that he won.
Yeah,
That's
he
a true
won,
story,
and
by the
part of
way.
the
I
reason
did
he
not make that
won
up.
was yeah. Well, part of the reason he won was because Edwin Kirk, exactly what you described. He was ahead and then went to a bouncy house slide, and Mark, Jeremy, Sedbury were beside themselves with anguish about what was happening. No, this was a great race. This was a compelling race. Of course, Kurgat didn't run because he wanted to be fresh for the 5,000, but Klecker did run, so it was a good victory. Do you have any questions about the 10 before I move on to the 5?
Does Blaze Farrow of NAU get any points?
No, he made the meet, but finished 12th on my simulation.
Got it.
Yeah, yeah. So the 5,000, again, like I said, Kurgat is fresh. Klecker and Day are coming back. Of course, you have all the other NAU guys like Grijalva in there as well. But this one was surprising. This one was surprising because Edwin Kurgat, it was 96 degrees and goes right to the front and goes full on Paul Chalimo from the gun. And I think it caught everybody by surprise. It was a brilliant tactical move. Now, that last 100, do you remember that last 100? It reminded me of the women's race the year before where Wayne Kaladi is like barely hanging on and Carmela Baez is like right there and then almost catches her. And you're like, oh my gosh, are we going to see something crazy? But Klecker was playing the role of Cardama Baez, didn't quite get there. And Kurgat, I mean, did it the hard way. So hats off to him for his second individual, actually third, because the one indoors as well too. So wins one in each season for the Cyclones.
So the top returner, Thomas Ratcliffe of Stanford, doesn't do well. And what about like the Cooper Tears of this
I mean, they're
world
all
and
look
Alex Massais?
as
You know,
I think it was Mike Tyson or somebody else, some boxer who said everybody has a plan until you get punched in the mouth, right? All these people had plans and they thought it was going to go one way, but he just scattered the field. Kurgat just scattered the field. When you go out in 62 Gordon, when it's 96 degrees. Is that how hot it was? That's what I said. Yeah. When you go out in 62 for the first 400, you got a lot of people questioning. So the names you mentioned, yeah, they were there, but it just was a wild race. I mean, Ratcliffe still is All-American, Tier is still All-American, but Kurgat, man, that was a gutsy way to run it.
Are you sure it was Kurgat? Because Vincent Kiprop of Alabama still had outdoor eligibility.
Yeah. Yes, but he's on another level now after cross country and after indoors. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll
Kiprop didn't
agree
even
with
run.
your
He ran the
1.0.
Kiprop ran the
Kiprop ran the
10,000. He
10K?
didn't run the 5. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. He actually was
All right.
with. I can't believe you don't remember this. He was with Day when Day made that move with about like 2.5 miles to go. He was right there with him. They actually were that moment. They kind of look at each other like, "Hey, do you want to trade off leads?" And they did like the little high five thing. It was like one of the better moments. They mentioned it on the broadcast. You must have been. Oh, you were interviewing Carl Lewis. Okay, sorry, that's what you're doing.
You're breaking up a bit, so people didn't hear what you just said. But okay, let's move on. With this meet's starting to get
It was
long,
great.
because a lot of times track meets go on too long, and
It's a
I
track
feel like this
meet. Of
track
course
meet is
it's gonna
going
be
on
long.
too long.
No, it's going on the exact appropriate length of time. What do you want to know next? Hurdles?
Yeah, 110 hurdles.
Yeah, well, I'll do the easy one first. For 4 hurdles, actually, I'll just do that one. Knock it out.
Okay.
Yeah, Quincy Hall, Norman Grimes, 1-2 there. High hurdles, man. High hurdles was interesting because you had obviously the LSU Florida State battle there. That dynamic was fun to watch. And I had Trey Cunningham coming out on top.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was kind of crazy how literally it was Florida State, LSU, Florida State, LSU. So it went Trey Cunningham, then Eric Edwards Jr., then Caleb Parker, then Damian Thomas. So
yeah, and
lots of points for LSU and Florida State.
Grant Holloway was there to hand out the medals for this one. And then he reminded everybody that he did have an extra year of eligibility that he just chose not to use. So none of you guys would be winning this race.
He basically said, "You're welcome" to everyone. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah. Well, and then Daniel Roberts showed up and was like, "You're especially welcome because you guys would all be 2 spots lower, not just 1, if it wasn't for me." Yeah.
All right. Any notable field events that occurred?
Do you want to talk about Javon Harrison?
Sure.
Yeah, he did the.
I'd love to.
He had outdoor left, right?
Yeah, he had outdoor. He's a junior. He's a junior.
So he did it again. He did the double again.
Oh wow!
The high jump, long jump, double again. Nilsson, pole vaulter. He had eligibility left, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
He wins again.
Record. Got the collegiate record.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
What? So Mondo now is like,
Yeah. Well, so Mondo tried to get back. So he found this. The vault was on the first day, and you know how it goes. Well, the past few years it's gone men, women, men, women. The vault was on the first day. He breaks the collegiate record. Mondo actually tries to petition the NCAA for an extra day of eligibility, not an extra season. He wants an extra day of eligibility to come back and vault and try to get his collegiate record back, and was subsequently denied. So Chris Nilsson gets it. Trip Paperi gets another win for Texas. So they had 3 men's winners. Boom, boom, boom.
Boom, boom, boom.
4x4, Texas A&M got the win. 4x1. What did you think of the 4x1? I still am processing that.
I mean, Houston finally got back on top.
I knew you'd go with that.
Right? After there wasn't they were kind of staying under the radar the entire season because there's no fanfare, there's no series following them. You know, they won a couple meets. They didn't run an A team at Texas Relay, so no one really knew yet what we were going to see. And they put it together, and they win 3 of the past 4. And Carl Lewis is just like, and Leroy Burrell just like, that's right, we're not going anywhere. And I think I did hear that they did, and eventually then sign 2 international prospects after they won that 4x1 who've run sub 10. So they're going to continue to be great in this simulation.
Did you simulate what you would be doing in the spring? Which team you'd be following? Did you simulate the documentaries?
Uh, what team I was following? We decided to not follow any teams in this simulation.
Okay.
In this simulation, Gordon got really sick.
So
He had like this
what did you do
flu
all day?
like symptoms, and so
What did you
he
do at
he
work?
stayed
Did you do
inside.
anything? All you didn't
No, he didn't
travel
do
to any
anything.
meets.
No,
Okay,
he
good.
just updated some
Results
things on the
pages.
website. Went to the beach a couple weeks. You know,
Okay. Uh what
who won the team title?
break down the that's my question to you because I will defer to you as the team title guru, and I know you've been filling in all of the results that I've told you, so you're able to give me an accurate interpretation of the team title.
Yeah, I
Was
wish
it
I
a
would have
tie
done the
again?
actual math. Wasn't a tie,
Okay.
but it was between Texas and Florida State,
Mhm.
and Texas got third,
Okay.
Florida State got second, and LSU won it.
Okay. So they get LSU gets one, well, two titles, I guess, if you want to give them credit for indoor. They don't get a
And
half. They get
NAU
what's that?
NAU got seventh because they had a bunch of points
Okay.
in all like the distance events.
Hmm.
So they end up getting second, first, and seventh, and they win Program of the Year for the whole season
Oh wow.
because
Is that a
cross
thing?
indoor outdoor.
Or is
There
that a
is,
thing?
yeah, yeah, but like it's not
Do you,
real because like you know basically you just have to be a good cross country team and like a good. I mean, it goes to like the Oregons and the Arkansas every year basically.
do you add up the number and then whoever has the lowest number? Is that literally how they do it?
Yeah, that's how it works.
Oh
But
wow.
if you don't place in a season, so say you get like no place in indoor, then you just eliminated. So you have to at least finish a team in all three.
Oh okay.
So even
Gotcha.
if you
In all
win indoor and outdoor but don't qualify for cross country, then you're not going to be ranked.
oh, that's tough. Okay. In all seriousness, no, though, which race would you have been most looking forward to for the men?
I mean, I think it would have been definitely the 1500 because I really do think that when you have someone like Nagoose who doesn't run the indoor mile, but like anchors a DMR, wins a DMR. So you have this guy out there who's like good, right? He's a 1500 champion, but then you have the rise of whoever the current indoor mile champion is, right? And then
Hmm.
you just have like 3 to 4 guys who are all really good and probably all won't race each other. Like you're going to have someone who breaks out at Brian Clay, who runs a really fast, like a 336. Then you have the defending champion. Like you just have a lot of people who've won it who have something on their resume that says, I should win. And then you put
Okay.
them all in a race together and only one of them gets the win, which I think is kind of cool. Because indoor sometimes it gets spread out, right? So
Yeah.
kind of like
Yeah.
the indoor. It's like the indoor men's 3K, but everyone is fresh. It's kind of
Hmm.
that's why I would like that most because I think seeing all the Oregon guys plus Beamish plus Olive O'Hore plus Nagoose plus
Yeah.
some whoever new person is, just
Walid
that would be the race
Suleiman.
I would look forward to most. Yeah, Walid Suleiman, yeah, those type of guys.
Hmm. I was thinking 5,000 being very interesting, but the sprints are tough, right? Sprints and hurdles because they needed the indoor season to give us some favorites, some people to watch. And with the distance races, you can always just go back to cross country and fill in a lot of the gaps in your mind. But I'm also thinking like which event would have given us the most potential trials qualifiers because remember it would have been back to back NCAA's and then right into the Olympic trials.
What do you mean by trials qualifiers? Like people who can like potentially make an Olympic team? Is that what you mean by that?
Like I remember watching Holloway and Roberts last year, and this was different because there were 6 weeks in between those two things. But I remember watching Holloway run 12:98 and being like, okay, this guy can win the world title this year, right? And I mean, I thought that before that because I mean anybody thought that before that. It's not like an original thought, but like I'm guess I'm saying is like which event would have been the most important in terms of looking at Olympic teams and then Olympic games? Because you're right, the 1500 would have been the most interesting, but well, aside from the fact that a lot of them are international athletes that are in there, it's really hard for a collegiate runner to make a 1500 team right now. We just know that
Yeah,
from history, and
yeah.
because the U.S. team is so like you're going to get in front of Centro and Engels and Blankenship and everybody else who's on the team. Like that's hard. I'm just wondering what event could have been the one where you'd see some collegians. I'm inclined to say the 400 just
I
because they're young, but who knows?
Yeah, and I would say the 200 too, because a lot of times the 200 is like not everyone does it, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like Christian Coleman might just be only focusing on the 100. You look at the 200 the 200 team last year, it was someone who pulled up with a hammy injury and getting eighth who made the team because he was the only one with the standard or something like that. It was weird.
Yep.
I don't
Yep.
know. So I think the
Kenny
200, like
Bednarek. Yeah.
a Makai, yeah, Micaiah Harris could come in and a tear. I want to know, do you think that Matthew Bowling would have been a marquee story every week the way he was as a high school senior?
No, not the same way it was as a high school senior. I think that was because he was winning, and when you're not week in week out, excuse me, winning races and setting records, it's harder to sustain that energy. You talked about this last week, right? And the idea of like age and how we put a lot of emphasis on if you're 18 and you break 4 in the mile, it's a huge deal. If you're 19 and a college freshman, and you break the 4 minutes in a mile, nobody really
No one cares.
cares. Right. So that I think that's part of this here as well too. It's okay. Now you're in college. Even if he's running faster than he did last year, if he's getting third at SECs, people are still like, oh, he got third. Even though we know that's crazy impressive. Oh my gosh, a freshman got third in the 100 at SECs. They're going to have a great career. But the attention certainly would have been less than it was last year, unless he was able to win. And based on, we had a small sample size indoors, but we had a enough evidence to know that obviously he's not a fluke. I mean, he had the fourth fastest time in the country in the 200, so he would have been in the mix. He would have been right there. He wasn't going to. I don't think he's going to win a title as a freshman, but he would have been right there and ready to compete. What do you think?
I think he would have been better outdoor than he was indoor. I think.
See, I wonder about the long jump. That's what I wonder about, right? Because that's
Yeah.
like
Well,
where.
because I think he's just he. I mean, you see his 4x4 split, so clearly he's more of a strength guy than like. I think he's better in the 2-4 or like in the 1-2 than the
Yeah.
160. Right. I think he's more of like a Noah Lyles. Not that he's Noah Lyles, but Noah Lyles and Christian Coleman are like kind of come from two different spectrums, right? Noah Lyles comes
Mhm.
from like I'm a 1-2 guy, where Christian Coleman's I'm a 61 guy. So they can meet somewhere in the
Yeah.
middle, but the shorter the distance, the more advantage Christian Coleman has. And I think for Matthew Bowling, I think he is more of a I need longer distance to compete. So the shorter 60 stuff, he's not as good yet, especially at this young age.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And they just had so many options. It would have been difficult to figure out because focusing on the 400 versus focusing on the long jump is just dramatically different. So just figuring out what event he was going to focus on or what event group would have been interesting story to follow. Who would we know right now if there was a season and be talking about that we're not talking about at all? Who would have been? I just think of last year, right? And Daniel Roberts was great before that, and we should have probably been talking about him more. But 2019 took him from a position of obscurity to okay, this guy's one of the best hurdlers in the world. Who would have been? Is there a person that you think if they had the indoor and outdoor season would have been somebody who made that big jump up?
I mean, it's hard, right? Because you're asking me to pick someone who hasn't been good enough to be talked about, right? So like
Well, that's pretty
you could
easy,
say
but I
really
mean, go ahead if you want to make excuses about why it's hard. Go ahead. Yeah, yeah. No, but this is a fascinating
I
question
mean,
to
I
me,
think there
and
could
it's
have been like
impossible to prove.
I mean, one person who might have been sneakily like have a good like consistent sub 10 performance would be Wasim Williams of Purdue.
Mm-hmm,
I could see
mm-hmm.
someone like him where he's like consistently running 9.6s, 9.96s, 9.97s, and then he ends up like making the 4x1 Olympic team. I could see
Okay.
something like that, but I guess that's not at the star of like he's not. You're not though. He's not going to beat someone like a Christian Coleman though. But
Yeah.
it's kind of he has like a he kind of has like a Christian Coleman like career the way Christian Coleman had his first year, right? When
Mhm.
he just
Yeah.
made the 26. Did he make the 2016 Olympic team? Christian Coleman, was he like an
In the
alternate?
relay.
Maybe, I don't know. In the relay, yeah.
In the relay. Yeah.
Before he got really good. But I
Yeah.
don't know. It's hard, right? Who would you say?
I look at someone like in the 400. We talked about Randolph Ross before, but maybe he would have gotten even more attention. Or Jamal Walton from Texas A&M, right? I mean, that just a freshman. 800. See, 800 to me is where there could have been somebody because 800 there wasn't. You had Dixon, the known person, but there was a lot of room for someone to come up out of nowhere and get second, assuming Dixon would have won, right? Like there, but I don't know who that
Yeah,
person would have been. I mean, maybe I'm looking at the young people on the list. Maybe someone like Luis Peralta, the freshman from Oregon, right? Maybe he makes a big
yeah.
jump up. Or maybe someone like Isaiah Jewett, who's experienced and been around, just has a breakthrough at that point. It's harder in the distance races to think of anybody. In the hurdles, I will say Eric Edwards Jr. Like his he hit hurdles and stuff at the final last year, and in Austin, and obviously that race was dominated by Holloway, and then Roberts was right there. But he had a bad race there, but indoors he was running really well, and he was tied for third fastest time in the nation indoors, just a sophomore. I think he could have been a guy who could have just blown past people and moved into a man. Maybe this guy can get an Olympic team spot behind Holloway and Roberts.
I know you're gonna hate me for saying this, but I honestly think that Quincy Hall could have had a
Quincy Hall.
big breakout in the 400 hurdles. I
I
think
mean, he already had a
he's a raw
title.
talent. He had a right
He's
title,
got a
but
title.
like he could have ran faster and like start running like 47 high and then be
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, okay, now like you're starting to get in Rye Benjamin
Yeah.
territory. And I think there could have been an opportunity for Quincy Hall to dominate the outdoor season, right? He's just beating everyone,
Mm-hmm.
and his bad races are 48 lows and his good races are 47 highs. And then he goes
Mm-hmm.
into the trials, and we're like, we'll get excited to see like this NCAA guy who's like dominating everyone go up against Rye Benjamin. I
Yeah.
think that would
Well,
have
and
been like a cool
Benjamin.
storyline that could have happened.
Right now, Rye Benjamin has no competition in the 400 hurdles in the
Exactly,
United States.
especially in the
Yeah, so
U.S.
that you're
In the U.S. Yeah,
well, yeah, that's what I meant. That's what I meant. Yeah, obviously his competition internationally, but you just compare that to the women's 400 hurdles, where it's so hard to win that race and so hard to make the team. And on the men's side of things, it's Rye Benjamin, and then a gap, and then everybody else. That's a good one because we know who Quincy Hall is, but like there's that next level up of recognition that he could jump into, and that's like before last year. That's the kind of the spot that Holloway occupied, right? Like he had won NCAA titles, but he had never made a US team before. So people might have known him. But then when you run 1298 and then you go on to win a world title, people are like, okay, now you're here. Now you're here.
yeah, yeah. Man, the NCAA system is so good for our sport. Like, as much as the NCAA gets shit on for all the like paying players, not this, that, and the other thing, like the reason why U.S. track and field is so good is because we created this system that gives 18 to 22-year-olds 4 straight years of world class training. So by the time they're
Mm-hmm.
out of here, whether it's out of in 3 or 4 or 5 years, they hit the international scene running, and they don't like.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like it's hard to replicate this. Like, there's a reason
Yeah.
why international people come to the NCAA system because, hey, you can be coached by Edric Floreal for 4 years from 18 to 22, like, and you actually have
Yeah. Yeah.
talent. You're gonna maybe become like a person who can consistently make world teams and do well internationally. So I think the NCAA is like the
Yeah.
ultimate like G League for it's our G League for the NBA.
I didn't. I don't know. You didn't listen to yesterday's podcast, but we got an email and it was responding to when Josh Kerr was saying how the UK is better than the US in the 1500 right now, and specifically in Scotland. And the emailer, who's from the UK, brought up the fact that you can tell in the UK which guys went to the universities in the United States and came up through that system and who didn't, because Kerr is really good tactically. O'Hare is good tactically. Neil Gurley is really good tactically, right? And he was comparing; those are all guys who went to college in the U.S., ran a bunch of rounds, and he was contrasting it to other British runners who struggled, who had fast personal bests, but struggled more in tactical racing. And he drew a connection between those ones because he said, well, those guys didn't go to college in the United States. They didn't have as much experience running in, especially in the mid distance races, in those types of races. And then they get to pro level and they're a little bit behind in that element.
Yeah, and you could argue that's probably get good in the NCAA because he came in as like a 337 guy, 336 guy. I think he ran 335 or I don't know, but he came in as like a 22-year-old, right? So he's not going through the system. He's like he already had his own system that developed him to a 337, 336 guy. And then it takes some time to learn yeah, and that's why he had the couple false start. Not that that's connected to that, but tactically James West wasn't great in his first year at Oregon. It took like the second to second and a half year to get like him to be tactically great, which shows that NCAA is really good at teaching tactical racing.
Yeah. Yeah. And then on the sprint side of things, like you get thrown into the SEC where it's just like, okay, it's not so much about tactics, but just the sheer overwhelming competitiveness of it and the quality of the coaching and the training group there too, I think has a huge element. Where else are you going to be able to go and train with that many people at that high level? It's rare. So I agree with you. I agree with you for sure.
I
We'll leave
think
it
the
there.
2020 virtual simulated
Championships went well.
NCAA men's championships turned out to be a hit in my mind. I think it was a hit. I think we should do it every year. Maybe next year we visualize it more and we actually have the app to it. But our simulations,
Yeah.
man. I love living in simulations. We just need more matrix simulations in track and field.
Yeah. I'm good with tomorrow being the last one for a while. So tomorrow we'll do a women's one. Thanks everybody for listening. Thanks to Alon
We
for
know
producing.
we're doing an Olympics one in August.
Oh, okay. So we'll do like several more, but after this year, I don't want to do anymore. In any event, thanks everybody. Email address is FloTrackPodcast@gmail.com. We'll talk to you tomorrow.